Hello and welcome to the Take the North podcast on your free Odyssey app and wherever you get your podcasts. I am David Haugh from the Mully and Haugh Show. Special guest today joining us from Ireland, just outside Dublin. I'll let him tell you where. Noel Dowling is a Bears fan, an NFL journalist and podcaster who has every week the Irish NFL show. His podcast. I was a guest on his podcast a little while ago. He's returning the favor today. Hello, Noel. How are you?
Not too bad, David. And I appreciate the invite to come on, but how are you keeping yourself?
Doing well. Dan Weeder is on vacation. It is the summer. There's not a whole lot going on the NFL calendar. This is the lull. But Noel, I'll tell you, 3 weeks or so, give or take, July 19th is the date the Bears return to training camp. So it's never quite in Chicago. It's never not Bears season. We at the Score could talk Bears 24/7, 365. Some people will accuse us of doing that anyway, but it's always topical. And this year, especially this offseason, there's a little bit more excitement in the air. I just want to start. Let people know where you are, what you do, and how you consume Bears football, because I think that we have this sense in Chicago. We're very provincial, we're very myopic, but it is a worldwide brand, and there are Bears fans everywhere.
No, absolutely. I'm based in, as you say, I'm not far from Dublin. I'm in an area called Carlow, and yeah, so I'm not too far outside of Dublin. And I've been a Bears fan since probably the late 80s. So I would say probably in the 90s, it felt like there wasn't that many other NFL fans around. It was myself and a friend of mine. And we kind of felt like we were the only NFL fans in Ireland. But as time kind of went on and we had limited access to NFL highlights and that kind of thing. But as the growth of the internet and the sport grew, then the sports channels over this side, there's a sports channel, Sky Sports, they kind of do the UK and Ireland. They started showing games, and then obviously it became more readily available to us. And then Game Pass comes along, and sure, we have access to NFL Network, every single game, highlights. And you kind of find out then that there were so many NFL fans in Ireland that suddenly we're all kind of able to come together. So for me, it kind of started on Twitter, kind of just, I started, you can see the hashtag there, kind of a Bears Twitter account, and got talking to other Bears fans. And suddenly you realize just how international this game is. Then we talk about, obviously, the Bears will be in London this year, and you kind of see how quick those tickets went. And yeah, so we just kind of, I got talking to other Bears fans. We started, well, the other guys started a Bears podcast, which they brought me into. I did that for 3 years. And then just at the start then, maybe 2-3 months ago, I made the move then from the Bears podcast to the Irish NFL show. And look, as you say, there is no off season. There's always something to talk about. And especially for Chicago this year, there is so much going on and so much kind of optimism and hope going into the season that it's just a joy that when I get to talk Bears, I love it.
In Chicago, some people are born into their Bears fandom. Some people geographically just live here and follow the Bears because it is what everybody else does. How did you come to follow the Bears? What was it about the logo or the franchise or the appeal that made somebody living outside of Dublin be attracted to this fan and this fan base and this organization?
Yeah, this is the one question I get, and I don't have that one memory, because I have other friends who are Bears fans, and they, I watched this game and I saw this guy wearing number 34, and wow, and I was just in love with the game. I don't have that one specific moment I can jump back to and say, that was it. What I do have, though, is a friend of mine from London who used to spend his summers in Ireland. He was a big American football fan, and he loved the World League. He was a London Monarchs fan. He had all that kind of stuff, and he was also a Bears fan. So I just give him the credit, or the blame, whichever we call it, and say that maybe he had that bit of it, maybe he had that influence and kind of pushed me toward the Bears. But as I say, that one moment, unfortunately, I'm a bit old now. That those early days are a bit of a distant memory. But I think that's probably where I kind of got the Bears from. But again, as I say, that there is no one specific moment that really jumps out to me. But
so you've been to Chicago, right? Have you been to a Bears game?
Yes, well, I've been to one game in Soldier Field. I intend to change that. I definitely want to get back over this year. And then I've been to a game, I think it was 2014 in MetLife when we played the Jets. And then I've been to the 2 London games. And there was a Bears game in '97 in Dublin. against the Steelers, which was just a preseason friendly. So I'm looking to bring that count up a bit over the next season or two.
So let's go with that London game as a starter for looking at this season. That, to me, is a difficult game on the schedule. You play the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, they're going to be over there for 2 games. This will be the first of their 2. They've been there before, but this is one of those games on the schedule. The Bears have a very forgiving schedule, I think everyone would agree. But I don't know that Jacksonville, to me, looks like a game that is that easy. It's one of the more difficult challenges because of the travel, because of Trevor Lawrence, because of some things that the Jaguars are underrated defensively. How are you prepared to are you going to that game, and how do you think you're looking at that game on the Bears schedule?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely be over there for the game, and any chance I can get is one I will grab with both hands. I think this is a difficult game. Look, you mentioned Trevor Lawrence, and obviously he is a big part of that. If he can hit the ground running this season, and if he's having a good year, it's very difficult, obviously, against a quarterback with that kind of quality. I think the Jags, they have a good head coach. On offense, they have some players that if they're in good form and on their day, they can really hurt you. So I think it won't be an easy game, but we kind of look at the Bears roster now, and it's all on paper for us because we obviously haven't seen a lot of these guys together. It's still a work in progress. But I think if things kind of go the way we're hoping, I personally think the Bears probably should be too strong for the Jags. But again, this is all dependent on, things clicking right. And, Caleb Williams, we talked about Trevor Lawrence. We need our quarterback to kind of hopefully hit the ground running and get a bit of momentum built up by then. But I think looking at the 2 teams, if they both play to the kind of potentials that they have, I do think the Bears will be too strong for the Jags, but who knows?
Did you see that DJ Moore is actually in Manchester this week promoting the game? I think he's been at a couple clinics. He's one of these guys that he's a regular on the Mully and Haugh show every Monday morning. We get a chance to talk to him. Noel, he's not one of the more outspoken Bears. He's certainly one of the most professional and polite, but I got a kick out of seeing him interact in some of the clips on social media with the people in Manchester, teaching them a little bit about the sport and also giving them a sense of kind of who he is.
No, absolutely. Look, I think this is great for the Bears. I know, and even like Hard Knocks, which we may touch on later, it's a way for the Bears to build this brand now. And because we talked earlier about how international this game has gone, I think any chance you can get where you can really put yourself forward and you can build that brand internationally and bring more people into the sport, which, I mean, from Ireland's point of view anyway, it's growing so rapidly. We see that with live events. We had not too long ago, we had Peter King came over and we were a sellout for that. So, any kind of chance the Bears have now of these international markets of really putting their name out there and building that brand, I think is a great thing. I mean, I was a bit disappointed to see him with a Manchester United jersey, but that's my soccer loyalties. We won't go into that one. It's DJ Moore. I'll forgive him for that one.
So I think the one thing you can say a lot of things about social media, and most of them can tend to be a little negative because of the way it can create this sort of division, and it can be a very critical place. But the one thing I think is positive, people can agree on, it's made the world a little smaller, so you can keep contact and you can keep in touch, and you follow the Bears from outside Dublin, like somebody who might be in any American city or maybe even in Arlington Heights. I mean, it's easy for you to consume a lot of the press conferences, a lot of the news and information that we get. We're right in the backyard. So I think I became more aware of that when I was a guest talking to you about the Bears on your podcast, because you're as up to date and informed as anybody who covers the team. So let's start with some of your general impressions about some of the main characters. I think that's interesting from our perspective here in Chicago, how you view it outside, abroad, if you will. So let's start with Matt Eberflus. What do you think of Matt Eberflus as a football coach, and how much pressure do you feel like he is under in his 3rd season?
Yeah, I think for me, the jury's still out on Matt Eberflus. You kind of look at the way the last 2 seasons have gone. Obviously, season 1, I don't care who you have head coach. That was, that team was being pulled down. There was nothing, 3 wins. I don't think you kind of hold that against them. That's just the way, the nature, and I'm bringing in this whole new staff and kind of building again from the bottom up. So that's excusable. Last season, the start of the season was horrendous. I think we went maybe 0-4, 1-5 in those first 5-6 games. There was a run of 14 losses consecutive from the previous season. And there was a lot more expected of this team last season than obviously the season before. There were some off-field issues with coaches. And, I think Chase Claypool, there were some issues which I wasn't overly impressed with how, Eberflus handled the situation. Now, obviously, the Bears in general deal with them. But just looking at the head coach, I wasn't overly impressed. And then I just felt for the first half of last season, I felt it was actually worse than the season before. And then it kind of clicked then. Obviously, we know he starts calling the defense. Things start to get better. You bring in Montez Sweat. Things kind of click a bit more. And the second half of the season, things seemed a bit better. So I'm still torn on Matt Eberflus because I still think he has a lot to prove as a head coach. For a lot of last season, I honestly believe he wouldn't have been here for the start of this season. Now, for the last 3 or 4 games, I thought maybe they'd done enough results-wise that, they weren't going to rock the boat too much. I was still kind of watching, during after the season, just kind of because I thought there was a possible chance he could go, but maybe not likely. And obviously, Ryan Poles held firm and has his faith with him. But I think this is a massive season for him now because we can talk about the quarterback and what they've done to put pieces around the quarterback, but they've done similar for the head coach. They have given him all of these pieces on defense. They've completely revamped that secondary. On offense, they've brought in the quarterback. They've completely revamped the wide receiving room. They've, done what they've done at running back. So I think this season now is make or break for Matt Eberflus because he has all the pieces in place there now that should look a lot better going forward. So, we'll kind of the eye test will tell on Eberflus.
Everything revolves around the quarterback. The Bears drafted Caleb Williams. We have exhausted all of the adjectives and all of the hyperbole in describing his impact immediately on this Bears franchise. From your perspective, what is the biggest way that he changes your expectation level for the Bears this season and beyond?
I mean, he watching him, listening to him, he feels like a winner. He doesn't play down anything. There's no, well, maybe we can do this. It's, I want 8 Super Bowls. We're going to win this. We're going to win. But I love that. But it doesn't come across to me as cocky. It comes across as, he's just sure of himself. He's confident. He knows he has the talent. Maybe he looks at the players that are being put around him. So I think if that offensive line can give him a bit of time, I think this kid has the talent to actually go out there and win games. It's just a confidence in him. I just feel like he feels like he's born for this. He's not overawed. He's obviously in the world of NIL. He's already made a lot of money. He spent a lot of time in on social media and in the public eye already. So he doesn't feel overawed coming in as this kind of the savior quarterback who has to lift this whole franchise. He kind of seemed to thrive on that. And I love that assuredness with him. And I think, look, the talent is there. It's just a matter now of, as I say, the players kind of going out there and things clicking together and just giving them the best opportunity, which I feel the Bears have done. They have done. The offensive line isn't perfect, but I think it's better than it has been for a while. Look, we look at the receivers that are there, they have to be within the top 3 or 4 receiving cores in the NFL.
Great.
So.
Yep. All right, so you are at the pub, you're ordering a Guinness, you're ordering your friends a Guinness, you're having another Guinness, and it comes up, and then all of a sudden they say, all right, Noel, you know the Bears, you're an expert. What is the biggest strength of this team this season, and what are you most concerned about this season? How would you answer each question?
I think in strength, I mentioned the wide receivers there. I think they are going to give the quarterback options. And actually, I'll say pass catchers because you want to bring in Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett in there as well, who also can be very productive in catching the ball. I just think, as I say, that there's options around Caleb Williams there now that can give him a way out in certain situations. And I think there's a lot of experience in there as well. So I love these wide receivers. I love the defensive backs or the secondary as well. They're young, but they're talented. So I kind of like the receivers and the secondary. I think they're really, really strong and they're young, give or take maybe 1 or 2 players who've been brought in for experience. But overall, just going forward, both of those groups look like they could be really, really positive for the Bears for a number of years to come. Negatives, well, look, we got to look on the defensive line. I don't know if I'll call them negatives, but I'll say they're potential negative question marks in terms of can Javon Dexter be that 3 tech? it looks like this year now the Bears are going to put a lot of faith in him, you know, to see if he can actually step up and be the guy. And we also talk about the opposite side of Montez Sweat. You know, I talk about the secondary and the cornerbacks and the safeties, but it's really important to get a pass rush to give those guys an easier time back there. So I look at the other end, and I wonder, you know, is it maybe Yannick Ngakoue going to come back in again, somebody who's familiar with the position, familiar with the scheme and the team, and if you can get him at the right price, maybe that's good. For me, the defensive line, inside and outside, are just potential question marks until we kind of see how things develop.
If you had to pick one player who was going to be a breakout star, or not star, let's say breakout player on offense and a breakout player on defense, who might that be?
On offense, you know, I'm looking at the running back room and I see Roschon Johnson. He came in last season with a lot of expectation. I know, like when he was drafted, it was, oh, this kid will be the #1 running back by week 6, by week 7, and you know, he's going to be this or that. And you know, that's a lot of pressure to put on a rookie coming into a team that, you know, had such a bad season the year before. But we see it now. We know now it's unquestionable. The #1 running back is DeAndre Swift. We know that's a fact. And I don't know how you kind of feel it over there, but for me here, Khalil Herbert doesn't feel like he's ever really been their guy. I don't know. It just feels like maybe they're not 100% sold on him. And I wonder if Roschon Johnson, the guy that they drafted, who was highly touted, maybe this year with a bit of less pressure on him, can be that backup running back who can come in and maybe make a difference and do something. So I'm kind of watching out for him to see if he can be someone who can maybe step up a bit, where last season was just a lot to ask for that rookie coming in.
How about defense? Because I would say that when I look at the young talent, they have a lot of proven talent. So being a breakout guy is difficult to do. You mentioned Javon Dexter. I think a lot of pressure is on him. He'd be the obvious choice. But when I look at the secondary, I think that a guy like Tyreek Stevenson had a big rookie year. But I think that he is this close. No, I think he's this close to becoming a real legitimate starting caliber NFL cornerback, a guy who's a difference maker, impact guy. And if he can be consistent, I think some of those dumb penalties or aggressive penalties that he fell into last year could be avoided. And all of a sudden, you've got a lockdown corner you're paying well in Jalen Johnson. They're going to pick on the other side with, you know, Kyler Gordon's going to probably play the slot a lot and going to have a big year. But Tyreek Stevenson could step up and give the Bears a tandem at outside cornerbacks that are very, very dangerous and could carry this team and be with the strongest thing about the secondary. And I think Tyreek Stevenson is in line for a big year.
Absolutely. You've robbed the name right off the tip of my tongue there. I think, you know, you mentioned some dumb penalties and this and that, but you could see in his play what kind of player this kid is. And you know, he's 1 year wiser. He's got a year under his belt now as an NFL player. You'll hope the game will have slowed down that little bit more from this year. And some of those silly penalties are something that won't be needed this year, because he'll just be that little bit quicker, that, you know, in his head and in body in terms of what he needs to do. And then you mentioned it with the other two guys on the opposite side and in the center there. He's two good players with him. So I think he really could develop into a player who is someone to watch out for this year. And again, that secondary just looks so good and so young. It's frightening how it could look in the next year or two if they continue to develop.
They've got the defense to help them play complementary football. They've got the quarterback now and the weaponry to be able to score some points, to get a lead, to protect, and maybe let the pass rush. That will help a pass rush that is still maybe one edge rusher shy of being a complete unit. But the Bears look like a very complete team. They can compete for a playoff spot. In Chicago, Noel, I think you understand by the way you follow them, the expectations are the Bears are going to be a playoff contender. If they're not, there's going to be a lot of people disappointed, and some people may pay for that with their job. If you're looking at the Bears schedule, understanding this team, where it's at, what is your prediction for a record in 2024?
Yeah, I'm being kind of back and forth through the schedule, looking at it. I think it's changed. I think the first time I did it, we were probably 16-1, and that's probably not realistic. So I won't be hanging my hat on that one. No, I think, look, when you look at it, 3 wins 2 years ago as a really poor team, 7 wins last year, that potentially could have been 9, given a couple of fourth quarter collapses that really did, you know. Now, I know people can look at the other way, look at the games you won, maybe you could have lost 1 or 2 of those, fair enough, but I'm not interested in that. I just like to look at the Bears positive. So we'll say they could have been 9 last year if they could hold on a little bit toward the end in the fourth quarter. So I think 10 is a fair result. If you can go from 3 to 7 to 10, I mean, I think you can't argue with that. It's going to be a very, very tough division. We have 3 other really good teams in there, young teams as well. So, you know, that's not going to be easy. But I think this team has the potential if, and as I say, I mentioned earlier, Matt Eberflus, if the head coach is up to it, which I hope he is, and I still think he has that question mark, but if it kind of does come together, I don't think 9-10 wins is an unreasonable ask for this team to as part of that development going forward.
I'm with you. I said 9 and 8. They could be better than that. They obviously could be worse if they hit attrition and injuries. Offensive line must stay healthy. Montez Sweat must stay on the field. Shane Waldron has to fit in seamlessly. He's one of the bigger offseason additions, not a player, but as a coach and a play caller. And his synchronicity with Caleb Williams is so important. But I'm with you in terms of 9 or 10 wins. And I said 9 and 8. That'll keep them just good enough to be interesting in a division that the NFC North, Noel, could be the toughest in football in 2024.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, the Lions, you look at where they were last year, and they were just one half collapse away from, going to a Super Bowl. And you look at the Packers, they were a revelation in the second half. You know, such a young team, not much expected. Jordan Love coming in as a first-time starter. People were questioning about, surely they can't do it a third time. They can't have another quarterback a third time. Now, I don't know if they have or they haven't. I'm not going to jump to that conclusion. He's had an average half and he's had a really good half. So, you know, the jury will still be out on him going forward. I think his contract negotiations are going to be very, very interesting to see what the Packers want to pay and what his people want them to pay. But still, that Packers team is a very, very good young team who it will be interesting to see if they continue that development or if maybe the NFL adapts to some of these young players. But they could potentially be good. And then the Vikings are a very, very good team, and it's going to be the quarterback, which is the big question mark for them. I mean, they had the same amount of wins as the Bears last year, and they didn't have a quarterback. So, you know, if JJ McCarthy, I'm assuming he'll be in at some point. If he clicks, this is like the Bears. This is a very good team to drop a rookie quarterback into if he's good. If he doesn't, well, you know, we'll see how they go. But I think either way, like, this is a tough division, and you know, I still think the Bears are good enough to get those 9-10 wins, but it's definitely not a given. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see. I agree with you. I think I say this to people and they say, oh, well, you're a Bears fan. You have to say that. But I actually think it is genuinely the most interesting division coming up to see how these young, because they're all young teams, how they really develop and how they go at each other. And I think it's going to be a really fun division.
Last couple things real quick. So I see a Devin Hester jersey framed on your wall. What is the background with Hester, and why is maybe he your favorite Bear?
Look, I just remember when Hester came in as a rookie. That was a time when I was a single man. I wasn't married at that stage. I had my own house, big screen. We watched, the lads would come down on a Sunday. We'd watch football from 6 in the evening until 4 at night, which is the time frame for us. And week in, week out, you were just watching to see what Devin Hester did every week when that ball was kicked off all the way to the Super Bowl. And, you know, that's what football should be. It should be fun. It should be exciting. You should have players who I'll say you don't know what they're going to do, but you knew what Devin was going to do. Devin was going to get that ball and just go. But it was fun to watch. And you know, that's what football should be. And that's what it was for me every week. So, you know, when I got the jersey, I had to get a frame because, you know, players like that don't come along very often. And it was, as a Bears fan, it was an honor to watch that player week in, week out do what he did. And yeah, so that's for that jersey there.
It's going to be great next month in Canton when the Bears have such a big celebration. Devin Hester, Steve McMichael, and even Julius Peppers, the ex-Panther / Bear/Packer, will forgive him for that. But that's going to be a great weekend. Hard Knocks. Have you figured out yet if you'll be able to watch Hard Knocks in Ireland?
Oh yeah, we have Game Pass here, so we have the NFL Network, and we have access to all the games, all the shows. So we'll get Hard Knocks as it comes out, the same as yourselves, and I can't wait. I know the Bears have.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I know the Bears have fought against it for years, but again, what I was talking to earlier about, say, someone like Kevin Moran and Ryan Pauls, I wonder if for them they see this again as a great opportunity for the Bears to get yourself out there and build up. And for me as a fan, look, more Bears, more better for me. That's for me. I can't wait.
Are you in favor or not in favor of the claw, the Caleb Williams claw? Do you like the claw or not, Noel?
Caleb Williams comes out and becomes a franchise quarterback. He can do whatever he wants. I will be in favor of whatever he wants to do.
And got to ask, around Dublin, around your hometown, around Ireland, have you ever run into any other Bears fan, any other person named McCaskey?
I have not. No, there's been no Bears fan called McCaskey that I've run into yet. But who knows? You never know what can happen.
Noel, thank you so much for your time today, so people can understand how to get your podcast. It is the Irish NFL Show, and you are on Twitter, as you see there right under his smiling face there, at the Irish Bears 1, and you can follow him on Twitter and certainly keep track of him as the season gets closer. No, it's been a pleasure talking Bears football with you.
No, I've really enjoyed it. I'm sorry, can I just throw out the Irish NFL Twitter account is at IRE NFL. Just, if people want to jump on, we're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just if people want to kind of have a look and see what it's like over here for us kind of content we put out. But David, I really appreciate coming on. Any chance to talk Bears, love it.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And anytime that you need me or us, we're always at your disposal. And we will tag you at the Irish NFL Show when we post this podcast. And you can get your podcast, get this podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. You can watch us on the 670 Scores YouTube page. And this will be one that would be a lot of fun to look back and see if Noel's prediction of 10-7 comes true. It's better than 16-1, Noel. If that were the
Absolutely.
case, I don't know. You'll be invited back. All right. So for Noel Dowling in Ireland and Dan Weeder, who's on vacation, I'm David Haugh for the Take the North podcast. Thanks for watching and for listening.